Hello everyone, I'm Roger Hoover. Today we have Phil Garner with us, whose number is getting retired by Tennessee baseball this weekend. Coach, welcome back to Knoxville.
Thank you. It's fun to be back.
Now, take me back to a young Phil Garner. You went to Bearden High School. What made you want to go to the University of Tennessee?
Well, I actually grew up. I spent most of my life in Rutledge, a little town that's about 35 miles east of here, and I came to Bearden so I could play some football. We didn't have football up in Rutledge, so I had hoped to have my options open as far as what I could do in college. As it turned out, it became more and more evident that baseball was going to be my avenue. So I had an opportunity to come to the University of Tennessee. When you grow up here, of course, the University of Tennessee is the only place in the world, and I got a chance to come here, and I was delighted with that.
College baseball has changed a lot since you played. What are some of your favorite memories in playing the game?
Well, it has changed a lot. Aluminum bat, was a big difference. I think the guys are probably a whole lot better today than when we played. They certainly look bigger and stronger anyway. One of the things that you can't tell right here now, this stadium was all built in recent years, and right behind us used to be the grass slope right here. And so all the students and everybody used to sit out here, and pretty young ladies, and I met my wife like this, and so it was all beautiful. But right up behind us here is Fraternity Row, and there's one frat house that has a flat roof on it, and we used to have a couple of guys, one named Roger Peltz and one named Roger Baird, that used to sit up on top of that building up. This was my sophomore year. I believe this was maybe 1969. And they would announce the game. Now they were ragging on everybody out here on the field, particularly our opponents, and it was really funny. The two of them later ended up being comedians out in Hollywood. So it was really an interesting college experience, if you would. We had these so-called announcers. Maybe the next year it was banned, but anyway, we had a good time with it.
Now, you got drafted by the Oakland Athletics, but then you came back to Tennessee to finish out your degree. How important was that to you?
Well, I was talking to the players earlier, and I leveled with them. I came here to the university to play baseball, but I came back to graduate to get a degree. And I think your life experiences, certainly taught me. Once I got outside the university and I got into the minor league system, I realized that there were players that were 30 years old, 31 years old, that weren't going to make the big leagues. And what did they have to fall back on? Whether it was because your talent wasn't good enough, bad luck, or injuries. And so all of a sudden, after that first year of being in the minor league system, I realized, boy, this education is something that's really important, and I need to go back and get it. So my wife and I, we both came back and finished our degrees. It took us 2 years to do it. We were on the quarter system then, and so I lacked 3 quarters, and she lacked 4 quarters. And we came back over a 2-year period and finished and got our degrees. And even though I probably have never applied the degree, I think that, number one, getting the degree, the fact that you're going to set your mind to it and set your mind to a goal is something that's important, and that carries with you. The experience of learning, I think that's important too. And also it gives you an alternative. And so no matter what field you're in, I think that it's always an advantage if those that are your coworkers know that you have opportunities elsewhere if ever you need those.
Now, as a player, you came into prominence in 1979 in the World Series against the Orioles. Talk about your Pirates team and just that overall series.
Well, we had a phenomenal team that year. I think maybe right at the All-Star break, we were about 12 games back, and we really got on a roll, and we were winning ball games. When we were down 3 or 4 runs in the 9th inning, we were coming back and winning. So it really got to be something special, and we had this run the whole last half of the season, and we were just beating everybody. Last day of the season, we'd finished winning an important game for us, and we had to watch Steve Carlton beat Montreal to avoid a tie with the Montreal Expos. And so Carlton was pitching for the Phillies. He beats them, and of course we end up winning. We get into the playoffs against Cincinnati, our nemesis, and we thought, boy, that's going to be a tough row of hole there, because they still had some pretty good players, Bench and Concepcion, and they had really good players. George Foster was on that team. Perez was still playing, so we had to get through that. And we ended up getting through them and going on and playing Baltimore, who had 3 20-game winners on the team, and they didn't give us much of a chance in Pittsburgh. But we had a terrific series in probably the worst weather conditions ever in a series, and we ended up winning in 7 games. And it was really a lot of fun. And I think what you want to do as an athlete is you want to be challenged. You want to face the best because you want to be challenged. And all the way up to playing in the World Series, you're challenged. And when you get in the World Series, it's the challenge. Can you really do this when the biggest pressure stage in the world? And so we did it and we won. So it makes you have that special feeling.
Now, after your playing career, you were able to manage. You managed in Milwaukee, Detroit, and finally Houston. In Houston, you had a chance to manage Chris Burke, who also played at Tennessee. He also hit a big home run for you in the NLDS.
Yeah, he did. That was one of the great moments in my career, and certainly one of the great moments in the history of the Astro franchise. Chris is a fabulous guy, and if you know Chris at all, you know you're never going to out-talk him. So you just, and he is such a Tennessee booster. I mean, one of the fun things to have him around the clubhouse is when the football season would start, of course, he's got all the players in and he's giving them commentaries on Tennessee football, even though most of them didn't want to hear it. And then when basketball starts, he's talking about basketball. When baseball starts, he's talking about baseball. And he's constantly, pushing the Tennessee agenda. So he was a lot of fun to have in the clubhouse, in addition to being a pretty good ball player.
Now, you've been around this Tennessee program a little bit. You saw them in Houston last year. What's your impression of Coach Raleigh?
Well, I think he's going to be a tough guy. He appears to me to be demanding. And I only saw him play the 1 game in Houston, or 2 games in Houston last year. And I think what will happen this year is you'll see more Todd Raleigh brand baseball. I think probably it takes maybe 2 or 3 years, and you get your system ingrained, and the players are then buying into it, and so everybody knows how it's going to work. So I would expect that you're going to see a lot of improvement this year from last year, and I think that maybe you'll even see that again next year, and then you'll probably see would be considered a standard Todd Raleigh team.
Our thanks to Phil Garner. Phil will throw out the first pitch today at Lindsey Nelson Stadium as Tennessee opens the season with Oregon State.